Hello, my name is Liukas. I'm a children's book author and illustrator, and boy does it feel good to say that out aloud. You see, I haven't been an illustrator or an author for a long time, only for a few months working on my book about technology and children. But I'll get to all of that later on. First, let me start with a story. So this story, like all the great stories, starts with a girl, a boy, and a burning teenage love. In my case, the boy in question was the Vice President of the United States, Al Gore, and this was year 2001. I was 13 years old, and I had all of this passion and excitement, and I did what millions of other teenage girls do. I wanted to express it somehow. And I built a website for him. It's the first and probably also the last website in Finnish for Al Gore. And because there was no Pinterest, there was no Facebook, there was no Tumblr, I needed to learn to code myself. So I learned HTML, I learned CSS, I learned a little bit of PHP, and I set up my own server. And when the website was up, I was so proud. I made this happen. But then there were other boys. There were other things to get excited about, like philosophy and art and French and politics, and I forgot about both Al Gore and about coding. If you had asked me at 15 what I think about technology, I would have probably said it's inhumane, it's boring, it's somehow very stupid stuff that glows with a black and green glow. It wasn't until I was 23 and studying in Stanford University that I wrote my first lines of Ruby, a Japanese programming language, and rediscovered the same excitement, this almost tangible feeling of making something work that I had in my teenage years. As I said, it's almost a tangible feeling when you write code and you see that it works and the computer acts according to your will, but there is also a sense of intelligent pleasure, the pleasure of being able to create something out of nothing with the pure power of words. I imagine writers must have this feeling too, but coders for sure. And I was addicted. So I wanted to get everyone else addicted too. And I founded Railskills, a global grassroots movement to teach young women programming skills to give their first experience in software craftsmanship. And in the 4 years since 2009, Railskills has been organized in 220 cities all over the world, from places like Belo Horizonte to Berlin, from Amman to Australia, in places that I can't even pronounce. All the events are run by local volunteers, entirely without a central organization, no funding, no structure. Railskills is as wild as the internet itself, built on open source. During the one-day workshop, the girls learn to build code and deploy their first application. They don't necessarily learn about the intricacies of the scaffolds they create or the theoretical background of the arrays they make, but they get that same tingling sensation that I did. I made this happen. And the 220 people or 220 chapters all around the world who make this happen every single day always have the same concern. We don't have enough women. No one's going to be interested. And that's always not true. So in Croatia, we had 600 applicants. In Taiwan, the workshops have been booked solid for like 4 or 5 times in a row. And even in Tampere, Finland, we had 435 women sign up for this workshop. So there's definitely interest. Railskills retaught me to see coding as this vast array of human creativity, as this ability to build something out of nothing. Programming is not unlike creating your own little world, where you set the structures, you set the rules, you set the vocabulary. So for a little girl who loved Bertrand Russell, who liked conjugating French irregular verbs, who loved crafting and knitting, programming did make sense, and still does today. So why all of this matters? Why am I talking to you about making people code? Because programming and code, as Mark Anderson said, is eating the world. Every single company is going to be a software company in a matter of a few years. And the biggest changes in our society are now run by these huge companies that are software companies. Spotify, Facebook, Google are all changing the way we perceive music, friendship, information. And the values of software engineers and software companies are going to be the predominant values of our work life, namely those of freedom, meritocracy, mutual respect, and creativity. Programmers are honestly among the most passionate, whimsical, and warm people I've ever met. But it's not a beautiful future unless we change one thing. This group of people is a very small, homogeneous group of young males from Northern California. We could probably fit the entire engineering of Twitter and almost the entire engineering of Facebook into this one building. And that's the group of people who get to say the biggest changes in our society. That's why we need more voices, more misfits, more people with the ability to build the world they vision with code. So, this is my second project. Her name is Ruby. She's on a mission, she's a little girl on a mission to teach software to the smallest of us. Ruby's world, she's the chief protagonist and architect of our own little world, and she stomps and stumbles around this world and meets all of these characters, like the lonely snow leopard, who doesn't want to play with the other kids, and the messy androids that are very lovable, but God forbid, so messy, and the Linux the penguin, who's really book smart, and so on and so on. And she learns about the principles behind programming, so the computational thinking. So she learns to take a big problem, break it into smaller problems. She learns about pattern recognition. She learns about abstraction and algorithms and so forth and so forth. Little Ruby is my book about computing. And the problem I run into when trying to explain computing to people is that it's a very silent world. It's not loud and obvious like sports or the moving trucks we saw. A programmer sits in front of the computer and codes, and the breakthroughs are very silent. And all of the colorfulness and culture that does happen in programming circles is neatly hidden in the forums, in the murky underground internet forums that you don't want to go into, in the GitHub issues, and in the industry jargon. So my mission is to bring out the playful side of code. In Ruby's world, bugs are sometimes real. They live under your bed. They have pointy teeth and loopy infinite tails. The book is a celebration of computing, from the tiniest booleans to the immense algorithms. I think it's the right of every single child to learn about computers, learn how they work and how you can instruct a computer with code. After all, we do teach them about how the human body works, how a combustion engine works, or how to become an astronaut. But when your kid asks you, what exactly happens when I press enter on the computer inside? Or what are bubble sorting algorithms? Or Linda, is internet a place? We grow oddly silent, mutter something about magic, or it's too complicated. It's neither. It's not magic, and it's not complicated. It all just happened really, really fast. Computer scientists and engineers of the past 40 years did an amazing thing. They shielded us from all of the complexity that happens inside of a computer by building layers and layers of abstraction for us, by making computers smaller and smaller until we, the consumers, don't have any idea how the machines that power our world work. So one thing we do with the kids is we build a computer out of paper. We learn about the bossy CPU, about the helpful RAM. We learn where your summer vacation pictures go to, and what happens if you drag one of those virus files into it. We learn what happens, who talks to who when you press play on YouTube. And we have a very philosophical discussion about computing. We talk about, can a car be a computer? Yeah. Can a dog be a computer? Maybe. Can a toilet be a computer? And the kids learn to see computers as this imaginary field of creativity. We also build our first applications so that the kids see computers as a tool of creativity, a part of their imaginary plays and so forth, instead of just a machine that their father or mother spends way too much time on. So I've had the pleasure of meeting a little girl, a future dolphin doctor, who has presented me her dolphin health application that manages the stats of her future pets or customers. And I've seen this little boy with his headphones snugly fit on his head, managing, totally immersed in his intergalactic planetary management application, guiding his father, the lone astronaut on the other side of the room, safely back from the Martian orbits. We all have childhood stories that stick with us for years to come and affect the way we see the world. These stories and these plays, like invisible friends, shape the way we see the world and our tastes for years to come. One of the other things I'm really excited about is the compassion and culture around programming. When I poll people about what they think about programmers, the answers are usually, they are introverted, they are sometimes really mean, and they almost mix them up with the machines that the programmers are operating. As I said, programmers are among the warmest and most amazing people I've ever met, and that's the culture that we need to show, that computer science is a very human field. Code is not written by computers. It's written by humans, and programming languages are not written for the computer, it's written for the other people to understand. The atomic fabric of the internet is humanity, and it's built around the generosity of people. And I've had the pleasure of experiencing that generosity firsthand with Railskills, with the 220 chapters around the world who've said that, yes, we want to change this. I always tell that my alma mater is the internet. I've learned everything I know from the internet. And as Joy Ito, the wise Media Lab MIT director said, internet is not a technology system, it's a belief system. So that leads me to think that maybe if our kids, if JavaScript is the lingua franca of the future, if our kids learn that as their first foreign language, maybe we don't need grammar lessons. Maybe we need poetry classes. So back to the book. I ended up putting my little book proposal on Kickstarter, and it raised $380,000 on Kickstarter. And to give you a little bit of perspective, so this is over a period of months as pre-orders. And to give you a little bit of perspective, $380,000 is the equivalent of 20% of the annual book export sales of Finland. And all coming from an unknown, never-before published author like me. I get to be a full-time children's book author, which is amazing, and dig super deep into the world of children and computing, and look at how they interact, and boy, do I have many ideas. I want to make an art show where you crawl inside of a computer and see how it works from the inside out. I want to make a storybook that follows the life of an HTTP request all the way until it hits the servers of Google. I want to do all of these things, and it's possible because of the internet. Because here's the kick. Had I gone to a traditional publisher in Finland, they would have told me, and told all of these ideas, what they would have told me is that, oh, Linda, there is no market for this. And they probably would be right. There is no market for this in Finland. And if I had gone to a VC and told them about my ideas, they would have told me, oh, Linda, there's no profit in this, and that might be true too. But we live in an era where you can open source, you can self-teach, and you can crowdfund. And that gives amazing, amazing artistic freedom for me to pursue the most delightful, whimsical quality products that I can ever imagine. So my ending, oh yeah, and it also ended up being one of the most funded children's book project on Kickstarter. So that's cool. My ending is probably this. Amidst all of this chaos, all of this turmoil, all of the things that are happening at the same time and the boundaries that are breaking, we have a tremendous possibility. We just need a little bit of childlike optimism, idealism, wonder, and experimentation to pursue the things that we're meant to do. I hold my Scandinavian heritage very dear, and especially the storytelling culture we have over here. Astrid Lindgren's or Tove Jansson's work has probably influenced me as much as later in my life the work of the people who built MySQL, SSH, IRC, Git, Linux, Rails, PHP, all from Scandinavia, which is amazing. But this time, I'm going to end with the great Roald Dahl, leave you with a little quote. And above all, watch with glittering eyes the whole world around you, because the greatest things, secrets, are always hidden in the most unlikely places. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it. By Roald Dahl. Thank you.